You're listening to the Spicy Dividend. Hello everyone, it is episode 30. Episode 30. Today is March 23rd, 2020. When I'm doing this podcast, the time is 2:42 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in lovely, wet, 44-degree Pennsylvania. So yesterday, it was my birthday. I turned 29 yesterday. So this is episode 30. I'm 1 year away from turning 30. Not looking forward to it. Just getting older and not a fan of it. My spine will tell me I'm age 60. And one thing that I did get for my birthday yesterday was fat. I managed to put on an impressive 11 pounds of water weight in one day. That's what happens when you eat an extra large pizza, an entire container of buffalo chicken dip, and 9 adult beverages. And yeah, when you're a former competitive eater and you eat and eat and eat and get the engines revving, bad things will happen. All right, anyway, let's get on to it. So as I'm recording this at 2:43, Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 603 points or 3.15%. The S&P 500 is down 2.94%. It's been really choppy today. It started up really high. So let's start from the beginning. So yesterday when futures opened, pretty much after 5 minutes, they reached level down and they were halted because they were down 5% in a matter of 5 minutes. And they were down all the way until late this morning when a stimulus package was introduced, and it didn't even open up that much positive, and it went down right away. It was down pretty much 2% right away, both indices, Dow Jones and S&P 500, down immediately. It almost went back to even at around 1 p.m., and now it is gone down again to its minus 2 to 3 to 4% range. So unless something drastic happens at the end of the day, we're looking at another red day. Not a shock. And at this point, we have dipped so far below from all-time highs that we've actually erased all of the gains since the start of Donald Trump's presidency. And just think of how crazy that is, okay? So from the ending months of 2016, all those gains gone in a matter of just over a month. And that's how quick the market can drop. Look, you have to keep in mind, on a very long-term basis, the market goes up, right? It tends to trend up and to the right. What you have to keep in mind is that it drops a lot faster than it goes up. And take a look at the 08-09 recession as a perfect example. So at the peaks of 2008, we had that huge drop going into 2009. We didn't recover we didn't reach the 08 peaks until 2013. Something very similar could happen here. So theoretically, to reach the peaks that we had in very early 2020, if we follow that same trajectory, we'll hit a bottom at some point this year, and we will not return to our peaks that we had this year until 2025. Now, obviously, the market doesn't repeat itself in perfect patterns like I just foreshadowed, but I'm just saying if you have the same scenario as you did in 08-09, it's going to take the market a very, very long time to recover, and it's going to be slow. Now, when you had the 08 recession, in 2009, it did recover rapidly. There was almost a V forming. However, it slowed down once it reached about halfway back, and then it just slowly grinded its way up until eventually in 2013 we met the 2008 highs. So look, there's no telling what the bottom of this thing's going to be. The media is pretty much hyping this thing up like no other, and they're putting massive amounts of fear into the people, especially American people. And where I live in Pennsylvania, the tri-state area of Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey. New York is probably the worst state in the country right now in terms of cases and panic. New Jersey's growing extremely rapidly, and Pennsylvania's not that far behind. We're doing pretty poorly as well. So, in my area on the East Coast, there's a lot of panic and, way too much uncertainty for a normal person to be investing in the market right now. And the market's just continuing to drop. It's crazy to think that the Dow Jones Industrial Average was, let's see here, it was at a high of 29,568. And while I'm looking at it right now, it's at 18,576, just in a matter of just over a month. It's really insane to see how fast it drops. And if you're newer to investing like I have, I've only been investing for about 5 years now. It's very disheartening, if I want to say, if you don't know what to expect, or if you expect the market to just keep going up. It's very disheartening to see it drop this fast. It makes you not have as much faith in putting your money into investments in the market. But as Warren Buffett always says, or at least the quote that always gets brought up, especially by dividend investors, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. Well, you're reaching max fear pretty much right now. And, if the cases continue to go up, you're going to continue to see a lot of fear. But look, at the end of the day, if you look at the hard statistics of the health crisis, yeah, there's a lot of people getting it and a lot of new cases daily. But at the same time, if you were to take the global number, the global number, which is over 300,000, and just divide it by the amount of people in the United States, you're still at less than 1%, or at least you're very close to 1%. So when you take the U.S. cases, we are well under 1% that have been infected. Now, I've said on Twitter too, there's probably a lot of people that have it, are infected with it, or are at least carrying it, and they don't know it because they have no symptoms at all. There's a lot of saying that it gets delayed. You might not be experiencing any symptoms until 10 days after it. So either you have no symptoms now, or you never had any symptoms, but you can still carry it. So it's just a matter of, if you really tested every single person in the United States, how many people do you think would have it? I mean, I would guess around 1 million. I mean, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here, not trying to exaggerate. If you tested every single person in America, I would say there's probably 1 million people that have it. Now, a huge percentage of that's not even going to feel any symptoms. A big percentage is just going to get a little sick, and then there's, of course, going to be mild. There's going to be a small chunk of cases that people will severely get hurt. They need the hospital beds. They need the ventilators because they're experiencing shortness of breath, a very dry cough, and a fever. So, look, who knows where this thing will eventually peak? We're trying to flatten the curve, as everyone, you've probably heard 1,000 times, flatten the curve, flatten the curve. That's the whole objective of this staying home and isolating. Now, schools in Pennsylvania, they were originally shut down for 2 weeks. According to Governor Wolf here, it's probably most likely going to be another 2 weeks. He might have just mandated that. I got to read the article, but I've read from a lot of people I follow on social media that he did extend it for another 2 weeks. I'm pretty certain it's just going to close. They're just going to close school for the rest of this year. I mean, why not? So the economy's pretty much come to a halt, and healthcare areas and certain healthcare producers, they're cashing in on it, because you have something like a Thermo Fisher Scientific, which is one that I'm really starting to build up. You have something like them that gets a government contract to deploy kits, so they're doing okay. You have others, companies like a Johnson & Johnson, who are working for cures, and so on and so forth. You have smaller companies like an Owens & Minor, who ship healthcare suppliers. Obviously, they're essential, so they are getting good business. That being said, for all the other companies out there, this is uncharted territories. This is not like a financial crisis. This is a financial issue caused by a health crisis, and everything's pretty much in the United States, at least on the east and west coast, coming to a screeching halt. Pretty much nothing is going in and out. Grocery stores are doing okay, and any other essential businesses. But man, even though restaurants are doing takeout business, I don't know how it is in the rest of the United States, but in Pennsylvania, pretty much every restaurant has converted to takeout. But realistically, how much could they be doing in takeout? It's just not as, I mean, you could in some, I guess in some fast food areas, they're doing just fine. Something like a Chick-fil-A is probably doing just fine. And, not that many people are eating in at a McDonald's, but for normal restaurants that are sit down and you get the experience of the sit down, something like a Texas Roadhouse, Longhorn Steakhouse, maybe a Chili's, something like that. Olive Garden, the experience is the sit down part. You're not going to want to get takeout. And there's been a big push, bluegrass roots to buy from mom and pop restaurants rather than these big chains, thinking that these big chains are like these evil demons that like, oh, you support mom and pop. Now, look, everyone is struggling, mom and pop and the big chains right now. There's a reason that Darden Restaurants' stock has plummeted like 60% from all-time highs in a matter of like 3 weeks, okay? So it's not it's not like the big guys are holding up all right. There's a reason they suspended their dividend that they've been paying for a while now. Everyone is hurting, period. And, it's easy to say, hey, support local restaurants, eat out. But in a time like this, people are scared to spend money, period. So even something like takeout is considered risky business. They're going to go to the grocery store and get necessities, cheap necessities that you can bulk up on, something like a rice, pasta, any cleaning supplies that you can get for cheap. If there is toilet paper, there isn't any around me, you can get them there. But, they're going to be really careful with their money, and that just makes the economy slow even more. Now, what could be unprecedented about this whole thing is that the economy could just shoot up immediately after we start reopening everything, and this whole thing just is a blur. Like, after we start reopening, after 3 months, who knows? Maybe we could recover to the fullest. We were doing an extraordinary job as an economy just 3 months ago. And then we have this thing, and all of a sudden, everything's going to shit. And this isn't just the United States, this is global. Because who knows how China reports their numbers, if they're just fudging numbers. But their market, even though it did come back down to earth a little with the United States economy, their markets, after they did start reopening everything, did recover quite nicely. Now, they didn't recover fully, by no means, but compared to the rest of the global equities, they were performing the best year to date. Anyway, that's what's going on globally. It's uncertain times right now. Nobody can predict what's going to happen. No one can predict the bottom. No one can predict when we all get out of lockdown. It's all uncertain times right now. So these moves, this huge drop in the market is not unjustified by any means. That being said, I cannot wait to start selling some covered calls. I'm waiting on Fidelity to approve my options. For whatever reason, it doesn't. Well, I mean, I understand why. I guess when I first started setting up my account, I forgot to set up options to get approved for them. But it should be within this week, so I'm very much looking forward to doing it. I'm going to sell Penn because I have 100 shares there, and I'm going to sell my new purchase today. I bought 100 shares of Ford at $4.10. So 100 shares of Ford for $410, very cheap. Look, even if it goes to zero, it's still only going to cost me $410 in the end. This is not going to be a huge position. I'm not looking to buy any more shares. I'm strictly going to be using the 100 shares to sell covered calls. Now, something like Ford's not as exciting, but something like Penn is very exciting. So I bought, this is just to illustrate the power of covered calls and what they can do for you. So I bought Penn at $9.90, $9.10, and $4.50. So let's just do a hypothetical. Let's just say that I waited until $4.50 to buy all 100 shares. So my cost basis would be $450 for 100 shares at $4.50. So I don't know if you've watched or looked at Penn recently. The last time I looked, it was trading at $9.12. So if you were to buy at $4.50, you've already more than 100% gained on your position. Here's the cool thing about covered calls. So I was looking at covered calls, and the ones that are trading for the, I believe it was January 15th of 2021. So next year in January, I saw the $10 call selling for $540, meaning $540 if you were to sell one covered call. So if you put your 100 shares as collateral, let's just say I bought it at $450 for a total of 100 shares, I end up selling this covered call at $540. Well, guess what? My cost basis is now zero, and I'm guaranteed profit. So I would guarantee the profit of the stock price. If I were to end up losing my 100 shares because the price goes above $10 at expiration, I get the profit from the price going from $9.14 to $10 and anything above. And I also collected that $540 from the premium, and I get to keep that, and I get to keep the run-up profit to $10 a share. The other thing to look at it is what happens. Let's say I bought it at $4.50, 100 shares. I then sell that $10 call in January for $540. What if the price plummets to $2 a share? Well, guess what? $540 premium. I've only paid $450. I still made a profit, even though it went down $2.50 a share for every one that I bought. My cost basis is now zero. Anything is free money from there on out. So not only do I get to keep the premium, spend it any other positions that I want, but I get to keep the 100 shares at $2, and then I can keep repeating the process of selling covered calls. Now, obviously, when you're selling that far out, you're going to have to be patient, but it's just an example of where you could theoretically, if you get really lucky in a position like this that's very volatile, you could literally sell a covered call to have your cost basis at zero and everything's profitable. You could use that money from the premium, then buy other positions that you're looking into. Speaking of which, I did buy other core positions today. These are the main positions I am looking to build up. These are the big four, as I'd like to call them right now in my portfolio, that I will be most likely adding as quickly as I possibly can. The four are Home Depot, Thermo Fisher Scientific, JP Morgan and Chase, and Vanguard's Real Estate ETF, or VNQ for the ticker. These are the four positions I am really looking to build up as fast as possible. These are blue chips that I've been looking to add for an extremely long time. VNQ, since I used to own a lot of GLPI and a bunch of other individual REITs, I never really, it really wouldn't have benefited me from buying the ETF from Vanguard for real estate. But now that my portfolio is pretty much starting from scratch, VNQ is something that I absolutely want to build up. And with 0% interest rates and the economy as a whole tanking, this is a wonderful opportunity to buy VNQ. It is that it's lower than it's been in 5 years. So I am trying to build up as much as possible. I know a lot of diehard dividend investors are buying as much Realty Income Corp, the monthly dividend payer. They're buying as many shares of that as they could. Who knows, if you have a nice little chunk of change buying around, you could sell covered calls on those as well. And not only would you receive the dividend income, you would also receive the premiums from selling each month as well. So I'm very interested. I shouldn't say interested. I'm very much anticipating my account getting approved for options and selling covered calls. I will keep everyone updated, pretty much creating my own dividends with something like a Penn National Gaming and a Ford Motor Company. I do not care if I end up losing the 100 shares because they're not great. I mean, Penn never paid a dividend and Ford just cut their dividend completely. Who knows if they'll ever pay one again, or when they do, how long it's going to be. So obviously these are not dividend positions. I prefer dividend payers, but for these are total return plays, so I would not mind if I end up losing money on them. That being said, hope you enjoyed episode 30 of the podcast. I'm now a 29-year-old person. Not looking forward to turning 30 next year, but hey, it is what it is. I will see everyone in tomorrow's episode.